David Hume has said, reason is, and ought only to be a slave of the passions, and can never pretend to any other office than to serve and obey them. This I believe only to be partly true. First, empirically I believe evidence, that is, reason, can and even ought to have a say on what we believe and what we feel. And if we look at the facts, one can find evidence that evidence, or reason, can and does have an effect on our emotions. There are times when reason, or evidence, does in fact change emotional responses and/or beliefs about ourselves or the world around us. Thus, reason, or evidence, does have the power to change minds. It does have the power to change people's emotional states if they are open and humble enough to look at all points of view and all the evidence. Baruch Spinoza has said, "I call him free who is led solely by reason." One may think this is impossible, and it may be, but normatively it is a good goal. Why? The more we look at the evidence, that is, using our reason and critical thinking skills, the more over time we can come to correct conclusions. Empirical science, that is, facts about the world and evidence, can inform us that our reasoning is wrong. It can also inform our emotional states. Why we should have a particular emotion and why we should not have one can be informed by evidence, or reason. Thus, while it is true that emotions play a significant role in our lives and decisions, they are not the only source of information in our lives. Reason, evidence, empirical science, can and do affect our emotional states, whereupon new emotional states about the world around us can evolve and change. This is what it means to be human. This is what it means to be a rational human. The unexamined user known as xntubes states, reason has no motivating power. None. So, reason/rationality is only a means to accurate beliefs, which is a means to reliable fulfillment of desires. That appears to go against what is true. Why is it that great scientists of the past have rejected their pet theories, of which they had great emotional investments in? That can only be explained in terms of the evidence, or the reasons, of which convince them both intellectually and emotionally so. That can only be explained in terms of the evidence, or the reasons, of which convince them both intellectually and emotionally that they were wrong. That both their feelings about their pet theory was wrong. Thus, one can only conclude that reason or evidence does in fact matter and does in fact change the emotional states of rational human beings. Thus, reason does have motivating power, and reason can be the means towards more accurate beliefs. Desires or emotions alone can and lead humans to do things most of the time. However, we cannot forget that so can reason, and/or evidence, do the same for human beings. Thus, we need to educate our emotions using our reason to form our desires and our emotions about this life we have. As Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. What did Socrates mean? He meant that we as humans tend to believe things on unexamined and unreasoned emotional states most of the time. That to have a meaningful life, one must try to use reason to guide it and to use reason to examine our lives. If there are contradictions between our reason and our emotions, we ought to be guided by our reason. However, we can still take into account our emotional states. We may have emotions that are positive and good that led to good outcomes. We may also have emotions that lead to bad outcomes. The key is to use reason to do a rational cost-benefit analysis of our choices. This will lead to human progress and better outcomes both in our personal lives and in society at large. We should support those emotions that lead to a rational life and do away with those emotions that do not lead towards that outcome. To not do so, in the words of Socrates, is to live a life that is unexamined and really not worth living.